Most people hear $500 a month and think of a car payment, a slightly nicer apartment, a few dinners out. They do not think billionaire. And that's fair, because on the surface, it sounds absurd. $500 is not a hedge fund. It's not venture capital. It's not a secret Wall Street strategy whispered in private rooms. It's what some people spend on food delivery. So let's confront the uncomfortable question directly. Could $500 a month actually turn someone into a billionaire? Yes, but not in the way you think, and not in the way most people are sold. Here's why this matters right now. We live in a time where becoming rich is marketed as fast. Crypto cycles, AI stocks, overnight millionaires, screenshots of gains. The narrative is speed, but the real system of wealth creation has never been fast. It's been mechanical, quiet, boring, mathematical, and mathematics does not care about your feelings. Let's break it down simply. $500 a month is $6,000 a year. If you invest that consistently into a broad stock market index fund, something that historically returns around 8 to 10% per year over long periods, you're not gambling on a single company. You're buying the entire machine. Now, here's where time enters the room. If you invest $6,000 a year at an average of 10% annual return for 10 years, you don't have $60,000. You have around $95,000 because the returns start earning returns. After 20 years, you're not at 120,000. You're around $380,000. After 30 years, you cross a million years, you're around 2.6 millions. Impressive, comfortable, life-changing for many people. But not a billion, not even close. So where does the billionaire idea come from? Compounding is exponential, and exponential curves are deceptive. They look flat for a very long time. Then they bend, hard. If you could somehow maintain a 10% annual return and continue investing $500 per month for about 70 years, the math begins to approach extreme numbers. But here's the catch. 70 years is longer than most investing lifetimes. If you start at 20, you're 90. If you start at 30, you won't see it. Time is the real engine, not the $500. And this is where the narrative online gets slippery. People say, see, you don't need to start a business, you don't need risk, just invest $500 a month and let compounding do the rest. Technically true, but incomplete, because billionaires are rarely built on average returns. They're built on ownership of companies, equity in systems, stakes in asymmetric bets. The stock market's historical 10% return is the average of thousands of businesses growing, failing, innovating. Billionaires are usually on the other side of that equation. They're not just investing in the machine, they're building parts of it. So what would it actually take for $500 a month to become $1 billion within a human lifetime? You would need extreme returns, not 10%, more like 20, 25, maybe 30% annually, sustained for decades. And here's the uncomfortable part. At 25% annual returns, $6,000 invested yearly for 40 years doesn't become a few million. It explodes into the hundreds of millions. Push it far enough, and yes, mathematically, you can cross into billionaire territory. But 25% annual returns for decades is not normal investing. That is concentrated risk. That is early-stage company ownership, venture bets, massive volatility, long stretches of looking wrong. Most people cannot tolerate that psychologically, and many who try don't survive the downside. So now we arrive at the quiet irony. $500 a month can make you a billionaire, but only if one of two things is true. Either you live an extraordinarily long time and accept average returns, or you accept extraordinary risk and survive it. There is no third path hidden in a budgeting app. And this is where public hype and underlying reality split apart. The hype says small, consistent investments alone can turn anyone into a billionaire. The reality says small, consistent investments can absolutely build meaningful wealth, millions even. But billionaires typically can combine capital with leverage, ownership, and timing. They control assets that scale without their direct labor. Stocks are one form. Businesses are another. Technology platforms, intellectual property networks, these scale faster than salaries ever could. So what is the real power of $500 a month? It's not that it guarantees a billion. It's that it buys you exposure to the system. It buys you time in the market. It forces discipline. And over decades, Discipline compounds into options. Options to take risks, options to leave bad jobs, options to invest in bigger opportunities when they appear. In other words, $500 a month probably won't make you a billionaire, but it might position you close enough to opportunity that if something extraordinary does appear, you're not starting from zero. And maybe that's the more honest story. Not a fairy tale about automatic billions, but a slow mechanical process that quietly increases your odds. Because in the end, the real question isn't whether $500 a month can make you a billionaire. The real question is this: are you trying to become a billionaire, or are you trying to make sure time is working for you instead of against you?